Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into an absolutely fascinating literary critique that connects three games you might not have realized were having a conversation with each other: Submerged, Submerged Hidden Depths, and Stray. We're going way beyond the basic lore here. We're going to unpack a profound philosophical relationship between these titles. Specifically, we're looking at the concept of the outside, the wall, and why a character named Miku absolutely had to be removed. Let's get right into it.
I want you to consider this idea for a second. Stray begins with a cat falling into Walled City 99, but its prehistory begins in a flooded world. Now, we're all familiar with Stray's Walled City, right? Humans are totally gone, mutant bacteria are hunting in the dark, and we've got an uploaded human memory named B12 trying to figure out what went wrong. But what if the real, profound reason that massive city was built in the first place actually lies in the events of a completely different game?
At first glance, we can read these games as one continuous post-human timeline. A direct reading, if you will. Phase 1, ordinary surface life. Things are normal. Phase 2, the open world floods and mutates, which gives us the events of Submerged. Phase 3, humanity decides, nope, we need a technological fix, and they build a massive wall, giving us Walled City 99. And finally, Phase 4, that sealed system rots from the inside out, and our cat arrives in Stray. Chronologically, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
But let's look closer at that initial catastrophe because it's genuinely striking. In Submerged, a girl named Miku and her wounded brother Taku show up in this drowned vertical city. Everything has failed. The ground, gone. Emergency relief crates left by whoever used to be in charge, completely useless. But here's the crucial detail. There are these aquatic mutant watchers everywhere. The outside hasn't just become physically dangerous, it's actively rewriting the human form. Miku herself actually begins to physically change, literally infected by the ruined world around her.
And that terrifying bodily transformation? That creates a massive historical fork in the road. On one hand, we have the path of contact, which we see play out in Hidden Depths. Miku stays out there in the damaged outside, carrying this weird curse that somehow acts as an ecological cure, healing the corrupted world by literally absorbing the infection into her own body. But on the other hand, you have the path of enclosure. Technological humanity takes one look at this flooded, mutating nightmare, gets terrified of the exact contact Miku is embracing, and decides to completely seal themselves off. They build the wall.
So, Walled City 99 ends up being this tragic masterpiece of substitutions. Humanity desperately needed nature, but they were absolutely terrified of the open danger. So what do? They answer the floodwater with totally sealed architecture. They answer wild, mutating growth with safe, artificial trees. They swap the open sky for a massive metal roof, and they handle waste by engineering the necobacteria. They literally built a bootleg version of the outside, safely tucked away inside a controlled tomb, just to avoid the risky, damaged life Miku represents.
Okay, but here is where this whole neat, direct historical reading totally falls apart. Why does Miku feel just a bit too perfectly central to everything? Seriously, the harder we try to make this timeline smooth, the more suspicious her exact role in the story becomes.
The whole thing breaks down because Miku is this totally unnatural hinge connecting two completely incompatible worlds. Think about the setup. Her brother Taku has a totally normal, visible wound that just needs standard human medicine. But Miku? She undergoes this grand, mythic, invisible infection. She is the singular pivot point that magically makes this massive global disaster feel meaningfully beautiful.
And that brings us to the core concept of this whole explainer: aesthetic infection. This is the process where a total catastrophe actually becomes beautiful, enchanted, and meaningful because of an infected carrier. Miku's vulnerability makes the absolute horror of the end of the world bearable. The flood just becomes pretty scenery. The grotesque mutation becomes a magical mystery. The game's beauty is actually part of the sickness. Miku isn't just surviving a virus, Miku is the virus.
Which radically reframes literally everything we thought we knew about Stray. If Miku is this aesthetic virus, then Walled City 99 isn't just a shelter keeping the physical floodwaters out. The wall is a strict quarantine against Miku. Walled City 99 was explicitly built to isolate the dangerously seductive fantasy she represents. The city is trying to preserve fragments of the outside, but only after entirely subtracting Miku from the equation. When you look closely, Stray's entire architectural operation is systematically designed to break apart submerged enchanted fantasy. Just look at the map.
Miku's physical boat, it gets reduced to a simple postcard memory. Her beautiful aesthetic infection is stripped of all its romance and becomes the horrific swarming Zerks. The magical healing ritual is replaced by B12's cold ultimate sacrifice. The mutant community is divided into sterile robots and sentinels. And the romantic outsider girl, she's replaced by a totally neutral animal, the cat.
So who actually inherits this isolated, quarantined world? Redeemed humanity. The companions, the robots, they manage to preserve human tenderness after the infected, fleshy body has been completely removed. They keep music, fear, mourning, and humor alive. But they are entirely mechanical. They aren't fleshy. They aren't seductive. They inherit all of human culture while entirely avoiding the beautifully infected figure that was sitting at the dead center of Submerged. Inside that quarantine, humanity miraculously survives purely as a social relation.
Stray is basically delivering a harsh, brutal correction to the Submerged fantasy. In Submerged, Miku carries dangerous life with care. She's an ecological healer restoring seeds. But the Zerks, they carry dangerous life as pure, unadulterated appetite. When you strip away Miku's pretty aesthetic frame, you realize ecological infection is just a devouring remnant. Life reduced to waste management just returns as mindless consumption. The Zerks are exactly what the infection looks like when you take away the charm.
So, to finally break down both the physical wall and the literary fantasy, the narrative gives us B12 and the cat. B12 is history entirely without fantasy. He reconstructs the broken memory of the wound, but he doesn't make it beautiful or seductive. And the cat? The cat is the outside, completely without Miku. It's just real, raw animal movement. It doesn't carry a curse. It doesn't try to heal the world through suffering. It just enters, does its natural animal thing, and leaves.
Working together, the cat and B12 literally synthesize a cure for both sicknesses step by step. Step 1, they cure the Miku virus. They bring true outside life back into the world using a neutral, non-human animal, stripping away that enchanted girl trope completely. Step 2, they cure the wall virus. They use memory and an ultimate sacrifice to shatter that sterile, fearful enclosure. The cat on its own is just movement. B12 on his own is just trapped memory. But together, they bust the world wide open.
And in that final, epic resolution, the sunlight returns, the massive roof grinds open, and the true outside floods back in. The Zerks instantly die because that hidden biological remainder absolutely cannot survive the reality of an opened world. The Sentinels shut down because their dead protection protocols lose command. And the cat? It just exits naturally. It isn't a savior, it's just a cat. The ending comprehensively overcomes everything Submerged stood for, precisely because it refuses to restore Miku. It brings back the real world entirely without the infected girl at its center.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Miku is the virus. The wall is the quarantine. The robots are redeemed humanity. The Zerks are the virus stripped of its beauty. B12 is history without the fantasy. And the cat is the outside without Miku. Think about that the next time you boot up the game and look at Walled City 99. The true profound achievement of Stray wasn't just escaping a locked city. Was it actually curing the seductive sickness of the outside? Let that sink in. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.